Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. P Diddy accused of ordering the hit on Tupac. It's in a bombshell filing. Sit back, watch this joint. I'm gonna take you on a couple of rides, and we're gonna do what we do at the Mecca. But let's just get this intro started, and we're gonna go popping. All right. You know what it is. Unique Mecca Audio, man. We're going to play this joint here. This is about Keffe D. And his lawyer kind of just threw the weight over on Diddy real quick. Everybody else giving Diddy everything anyway. So he said, man, dump it on Diddy. Diddy, #1 hated man in America right now. Put it on Diddy. So this is how it played out. I'm going to give you all the play-by-play. Let's go. And this is the brother Jesse Weber.
Dwayne Keffe D. Davis is said to be behind one of the most infamous killings in history. Tupac Shakur, the 90s rap superstar, was gunned down while riding in a car with Suge Knight after the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand. And over the years, there have been multiple investigations into Tupac Shakur's murder, but there has been one man who has seemed to implicate himself in the assassination again and again and again.
Who do you think that one man is? Put it in the comment. If you don't know, you definitely deserve. But we're going to play it out anyway. All right?
Dwayne Davis, also known as Keffe D. By the way, spelled sometimes with 2 F's, sometimes with 2 E's, even sometimes with a Y. Gets a little bit confusing, but Keffe D. Now, Davis was reportedly the leader of a sect of the Crips street gang in Compton, California that dealt in drug sales and trafficking. Davis eventually did time in prison on drug charges in the late 90s, but since getting out, he has been more open about his apparent involvement in Shakur's death. Davis released his own tell-all book. It's called Compton Street Legend, Notorious Keffe D's street-level accounts of Tupac and Biggie murders, death row origins, Suge Knight, Puffy Combs, and crooked cops. And he started granting interviews with YouTubers who wanted the inside scoop on what happened on that night back in 1996 out in Las Vegas. So Davis and several members of his entourage apparently attended the Mike Tyson boxing fight. But afterward, in the casino, Shakur had attacked Davis's nephew, Orlando Anderson. The fight had apparently been sparked by a previous beef over an alleged stolen neck chain. So the men eventually separated, the two groups went on their way, but Anderson, Davis, and others that were with them were reportedly still pretty heated over what had just happened. And later that night, allegedly, their plan was to target Shakur and Knight. And Knight, of course, is the head of, or was the head of Death Row Records, as they were all stopped at a traffic light. This is what happened. Now, in an interview with the Art of Dialogue channel, Davis said he was in the front passenger seat that night with DeAndre Big Dre Smith and Anderson in the back seat of the rented Cadillac. And what happens next? Who fired the shots? Take a listen.
Dre, he was the one that was supposed to shoot, Tupac and Suge, but he got scared, right?
No, he didn't really get scared. He wasn't ready for that. They was youngsters, man, kids.
Now, what I don't like about this joint is the interviewer kept pressing them for information, and it kind of made me feel like Keffe D was in the interrogation room and it was an episode of 48 Hours. Be careful when you go on these podcasters because they trying to get a click and they don't care about ruining your life. Look what happened to Keffe D, even though it was his choice to run his mouth, because no one got control of his tongue but his tongue. And that's why I say, because we riding, that's why I say all the time, so you fully understand, right? Don't say nothing out your mouth that you don't intend to hold your word on. Back in my days, you might lose your tongue for that. But I don't want to spook you, so we're going to get back to Keffe D and watch how dude is pressing him, like he's in the interrogation room.
But once again, y'all Crips, right? So he should be used to that, right, Dre? So why was
he wasn't ready for that.
End of story. He wasn't ready for that. He wasn't cut like that yet. He didn't elevate. He didn't get his stripes to that. But that don't mean that he couldn't get there. That just means he wasn't there at that time. What is so hard for this dude to understand that he continuously press Keffe D?
Everybody got a role, man. Everybody
wasn't
ain't
the
killers. Everybody, you know what I'm saying? Everybody ain't gonna kill.
So
Everybody
Dre,
ain't
he
with
wasn't
that.
the shooter?
No.
Okay, so, but he was the one that was supposed to shoot up Tupac and Suge, but for some reason, he wasn't ready for it, so he gave the gun to Orlando, right?
Ain't that what he said? Why you need him to agree with you? Is this going in a court of law? Somebody explain this to me. I want you youngins that haven't been on these dudes' podcasts yet to understand how they work. Keffe D said exactly what he said. He repeated and tried to get him to change the words in between, but Keffe stood strong, and then he wound up just repeating what Keffe D said and gonna ask Keffe D, right or wrong. We need, your statement on this. Come on, dog. This sounds like too much of it. Yo, that's why Keffe's sitting in jail, man. You know what I mean? Because he went up there and these type of dudes rocked him to sleep. Don't think these dudes interviewing you as your friend. They give you a couple of dollars, not even a bag. They give you a couple of dollars, and then they exploit you and they make tens of thousands off it from the couple of thousand, couple of dollars that they give you. But let's stop the game playing, man.
Something like that. Yeah.
Listen to him, watch.
Orlando is the shooter. He's the known shooter. I mean, everybody know Orlando Anderson was a shooter. So Dre got cold feet. He didn't want to do it. He gave the gun to Orlando, and Orlando shot Tupac and Suge.
Yeah, he did his thing, yeah.
Now, let's be clear about something. Anderson has always denied that he was the killer. In fact, he died just a few years after Shakur in another shooting. The other men in the Cadillac, DeAndre Smith and the driver, Terry Brown, they are also both dead. But Davis told a lot of this information to Los Angeles and Las Vegas investigators as well. And this is after he apparently became a confidential informant for a task force that was looking into the murder of Christopher Wallace, also known as Biggie Smalls and the notorious B.I.G. By the way, we're about to talk about Diddy. We did a whole separate sidebar episode on how Sean Combs' former bodyguard came out recently, spoke on a documentary, and saying that Sean Combs could have been involved in the murder of Christopher Wallace. I encourage everybody to check it out if you're interested. But then going back to Tupac, we go to September of 2023. So this is 27 years after Shakur's death. And Davis was arrested near his home outside of Las Vegas and taken into custody. And since then, after he's been charged with the murder of Tupac Shakur, he and his legal team have been working to get him out of jail and to get his case thrown out. Now, we can say definitively he has lost both of those battles. He has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder. He's supposed to go to trial in March, but I want to explain a little bit more about this. So earlier this month, Davis's defense team filed a motion to dismiss the case. And as part of his argument, he is pointing the finger, seemingly, at Sean Diddy Combs as the one who really is responsible for Shakur's death.
Now, so I want y'all to understand. They sitting here, they pointing the finger and they doing all this and they saying it like it's a joke when this is people's lives that we dealing with. You know what I mean? This is just straight people's lives we dealing with, but we're going to finish playing the rest of this tape so you can see what's going on.
Started Bad Boy Records, now called Bad Boy Entertainment. And of course, there was this ongoing feud, West Coast versus East Coast, with this feud that he had with Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, again, the leader of Death Row. So I want to take a look at the legal arguments that Davis's team had in their filing. And it reads, Defendant Dwayne Keith Davis hereby files this motion to dismiss on the basis that the state of Nevada has failed to timely pursue these charges against Mr. Davis, failed to provide corroborating evidence to support Mr. Davis's coerced confession, and failed to honor the federal proffer agreement between Mr. Davis and the United States government, thus substantially impairing Mr. Davis's constitutional rights. So two big arguments here. One is that the government waited too long to file the murder case, 27 years. They claim that this was done maliciously. By the way, though, typically speaking, there are no statute of limitations for murder. But even if they had filed the charges sooner, this is Davis's other argument, Davis says he's immune from prosecution thanks to an agreement he had with investigators when he was hauled in to talk about Tupac Shakur's shooting. And listen, remember, Bill Cosby, we all remember what happened to him. His conviction for drugging and raping a woman was vacated because his due process rights were violated, since a former DA had in fact made an oral promise to Cosby that he wouldn't be prosecuted. And remember, Cosby relied on that promise to admit some incriminating things about that encounter. So a high court actually determined his conviction should be thrown out. But going back to this, the first big interview that was referenced in the filing is from a couple years after Tupac Shakur died. On July 16th, 1998, Mr. Davis was interviewed by Assistant United States Attorney Michael Terrell. Mr. Davis's attorney, Mr. Eddie Fayol, was present. The interview was considered a proffer agreement between the United States government and Mr. Davis, under which any information provided by Mr. Davis would not be prosecuted related to that information. Mr. Davis was repeatedly questioned about the alleged murder of Tupac Shakur.
See, that's the problem right there, right? Mr. Davis, as they call him, you know what I mean? You know, I got to keep it 100. Over here, Unique Mecca Audio, he's referred to as a rat bastard. I got to say that. Because he sat down with the government thinking that what he say wouldn't be used against him, thinking he could trust the government do what they do, they get what they need from you, and then they throw you back to the wolves for you to get mauled, and they sit back with their hands clean and said, oh, that's what a rat bastard gets. So that's why I say don't get involved in the streets, it ain't worth it. Look how they treated him. Shakur Davis denied knowing who shot Shakur. Mr. Davis was asked to speculate. He was asked to speculate as to who shot Shakur. Mr. Davis stated in the Compton Police Department under direction of Mr. Suge Knight, right? Owner of Death Row Records, Mr. Davis was asked what would be Mr. Knight's motive, and Mr. Davis responded, Mr. Shakur was getting ready to, I guess, leave him. Why is you giving up this much information to the ops when you raised a thorough young man like Orlando Anderson that went out in a hail of gunfire? Because you know the saying, you live by the gun, you die by the gun. You live by the street, you die by the street. That's why I lost my brother to the street, because we lived by the street. So what gives you the right, Mr. Davis, to violate this code and honor and disrespect the very code, honor, and oath that you gave to a thorough young man like Orlando Anderson that took that all the way till his last breath, because he went out with a hail of, like I said, gunfire. Come on, man. This the type of thing that sickens me to my stomach when I look at this, man.
Mr. Davis denied knowing who shot Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis was asked to speculate as to who shot Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis stated it was the Compton Police Department under the direction of Suge Knight, owner of Death Row Records. Mr. Davis was asked what would be Mr. Knight's motive, and Mr. Davis responded Mr. Shakur was getting ready to leave working with Death Row Records. At no time during the interview, less than 2 years after Mr. Shakur's shooting, did Mr. Davis state that he or members of Southside Crips were involved in any manner with the shooting of Mr. Shakur. Okay, goes to an issue of credibility. Well, Davis says he was interviewed again in 1999, and during that meeting, he denied that his nephew Anderson was the shooter. Mr. Davis stated that Mr. Anderson was not involved in the shooting of Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis did discuss that Mr. Anderson was attacked by Mr. Shakur in Las Vegas the night of Mr. Shakur's shooting. Nevertheless, the decision was made to retaliate in Compton since there were so many police around in Las Vegas during the Mike Tyson fight.
Don't you think that's a lot of talking? Yo, what is wrong with this dude? Somebody put in the comments, what's wrong with Mr. Davis? You know, he shouldn't even be called a street name no more after reading stuff like this.
And during that interview, Davis blamed Compton police for spreading the rumor that Anderson had shot Shakur, although later we know that Davis himself would say that.
Now look, first of all, you done ratted your boys out, Mr. Davis, and now you ratting out the Compton police. So you tell me, where do you think or expect to turn when you're ratting on everything breathing? Somebody help me understand this new wave here, man.
In public statements. But the motion to dismiss also says that Davis was offered immunity during the Biggie Smalls investigation in the early 2000s. The filing reads, the 3 LAPD and FBI agents were part of a task force to solve the shooting of rapper Notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie Smalls, legal name Christopher Wallace. The task force, through a sophisticated criminal investigation, obtained sufficient evidence that would prove Mr. Davis was the leader of the Southside Crips and his gang was responsible for over 360 kilos of cocaine and PCP. Mr. Davis provided 3 interviews to obtain immunity from prosecution. The final interview were solely questions regarding the Tupac Shakur shooting, which Mr. Davis was also provided immunity from prosecution.
All right, so you understand, right? Because they do a lot of legal jargon that I know my people don't understand. When they say immunity, that means that he can't be charged or prosecuted for anything that he's getting ready to say. And if he hold back and don't say nothing, and they found out later that he held back and didn't say nothing about something that he should have said when they said that he had to pick and choose if he was gonna be a rat bastard and tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, then that comes back to bite you, and they could rip up the plea agreement and everything you said they could still use against you, but you no longer are protected with the immunity, which is a blanket that they give the rat bastards. See the way I broke that down so you understand what's going on? Oh, make sure you go subscribe my daughter's channel, Juanita Mecca Audio. Go subscribe at Juanita Mecca Audio. Show some family love. A round of applause to family love. All right, see, that's what I'm saying. We got to just keep it 100 and work together, man. But, yo, this dude here, yo, Keffe, you are terrible. You know, as the females say, he just terrible. God dang.
So during a December 2008 interview with investigators, that is when Davis allegedly started to spill the beans about his one-time friend, Sean Combs, who he refers to as Puffy. He claims Sean Puffy Combs solicited Mr. Davis to kill Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur for $1 million. Eric Zip Martin, an associate of Puffy Combs, provided Mr. Davis with a gun to exact revenge on Tupac Shakur for the beating Mr. Anderson received.
So you telling me that, what was his name? Keffe D. What they kept calling him? Davis. You know what I mean? See, I forget rat bastards that quick. But, you know, because you just got to ignore them and just keep it moving. But Mr. Davis here, right? Mr. Davis done went and brought another man in, Eric Von Zip, to say that Eric Von Zip also had something to do with this. Like, where is the word and the sense of loyalty and honor amongst thieves? You're proving these YouTube rat bastards and flip-flop wearing in public trolls that need to just sit back and refrain from the comments and let the men and women and the people that's enlightening the people and have questions for each other do the commenting, and they just keep their hands to themselves. But because they feel they can hide, they feel they can do what they want to do. But believe me, God reveals everything in the dark to the light, and you rat bastards will be revealed too. Remember that. But come on, now you bring in Von Zip in, $1 million, dog. You did a lot of talking because you thought that those people, see, this is what it was, right? That's right. I'm gonna give it to you 100. Keffe D thought that them people was on his side, Greg Caden and all of them that done tripped him, you know what I mean, bought him a couple of hamburgers, and, you know what I mean, Big Mac meals, and he thinking that he's one of them because the rest of us that was in prison had to eat cold bologna and cheese. But he's eating McDonald's, Big Macs, and all that, so he did what he wanted to do, and that's how he got caught up. You understand what I'm saying? That's just straight bull crap. You're not one of them, Mr. Davis. And they showed you that when they threw you back to the wolves. Come on, man.
Now, Davis reportedly told the investigators that even though the job had been partially completed and Shakur was killed, neither he nor Anderson ever got paid. He later revealed that he believes Combs had paid the go-between, Zip Martin, who he claims kept the money for himself.
Then why you ain't gonna see Zip Martin? I mean, you're from the street. Come on, dog, stop it.
And he said much of the same thing in a 2009 interview a year later, because according to the motion to dismiss, The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, as far back as 2009, was in possession of the same set of facts that the Clark County District Attorney is now alleging makes Mr. Davis responsible for the murder of Tupac Shakur. The Clark County District Attorney's Office has offered no reason as to why it waited another 14 years to prosecute a case against Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis has been irreversibly prejudiced by this unnecessary delay in prosecution of this case, and Mr. Davis's constitutional rights have been violated in an extraordinary manner never before witnessed in the annals of the American criminal justice system. Now, of course, there was a response because the prosecutors from Las Vegas called out Davis for being quite dramatic and said he has been telling on himself for decades. So their motion in opposition to the motion to dismiss states, in the years following Shakur's murder, defendant Dwayne Keffe D. Davis confessed to being involved in Shakur's murder in nearly every form imaginable. Defendant confessed to some of his role in Shakur's murder during an interview with LVMPD Homicide in 2009. Defendant admitted to seeking a deadly confrontation with Knight and Shakur in interviews with the producers of the Death Row Chronicles in 2017. Defendant recounted his involvement in Shakur's murder in his book published in 2019.
Yo, this dude tells everywhere. In the police station, in the back of the motel room with the $2 trick from over in Hollywood Boulevard. I mean, what is wrong with Keffe? Maybe that's why that's the cheapest coffee in the prison, Keffe. Because they got Keffe, Keffe coffee in there. You think Keffe D got anything to do with that stock?
And defendant has gleefully claimed responsibility for the murder of Shakur in numerous YouTube interviews from 2019 up until his arrest. And the prosecution then addressed the issue of immunity from prosecution, right? Well, maybe he's admitting everything because, he thinks he's immune. They have a response to that. Quote, defendant asserts that he has received immunity from prosecution in this case.
In other words, he's thinking that he's one of the good guys and they're not going to prosecute him because he got immunity, meaning that right now, whatever he say, they won't use against him as long as he lock up other men. Got it?
Defendant has provided absolutely no proof that transactional immunity was ever conveyed by any prosecuting authority. Defendant has provided no federal court order conveying.
In other words, there was no paperwork to show that they was actually friends or even court order that say they was friends, meaning they signed into their little rat bastard, cooperation.
Conveying immunity. Defendant has provided no California court order conveying immunity. However, even if he had such a grant, they couldn't possibly cover his criminal liability in Nevada. Defendant also claims that his proffer in 1998 and his statement to Detective Long somehow created immunity for the crime. As the court is aware, the legal community utilizes proffer to describe a contractual relationship between an interviewee and a prosecuting authority. In essence, a proffer agreement allows for statements made pursuant to the terms by the interviewee to not be used against that person. The state does not seek to utilize the 1998 proffer session against defendant and has no idea what the terms of such an agreement were between him and the federal government before he entered his plea. The report seems to reflect that this was a standard proffer where a criminal defendant is interviewed about his knowledge on all possible criminal subjects he may have information about before he's allowed to enter his plea. While he doesn't refer to the proffer agreement with the AUSA Searwright, the terms of that agreement are known. Defendant was specifically informed that this agreement was between him and the federal government. Moreover, the agreement is limited to a single date and time. It allows for the statements to be utilized on cross-examination of defendant if he ever testifies differently. Finally, the agreement is limited by its express terms. Nothing in that agreement suggests the defendant has immunity from any criminal charges. Notwithstanding, it appears to only apply by its express terms to an interview on December 1st, 2008. Certainly, defendant is free to litigate the admissibility of the December 18, 2008 statement. However, case law establishes that defendant's mistake of fact about its admissibility, particularly where he had a lawyer present who knows the specific terms of the agreement, would not lead to suppression of the statement, meaning it can't come into evidence. And on Tuesday...
Yeah, that's some crazy mess right there. What they basically tell him is, you did a whole bunch of talking, you agreed to work with us, you worked with us, but nowhere in it did we say that, we couldn't use this stuff to prosecute you. We just said, feel free to talk, and we're not going to lock you up at the moment. You felt like, man, let me say what I got to say to get out of here for the moment. And what you said, they let you get out of there for the moment, wound up coming back to hurt you 27 years later. I mean, come on, man. Tighten up, man.
Tuesday, Clark County District Court Judge Carly Kearney agreed with the prosecution, saying Davis has provided no proof that he had any immunity deals. And we're going to expect to hear in the next few days if Davis's legal team plans to appeal that decision to the state Supreme Court. Remember, going back to Cosby, it was the Pennsylvania Supreme Court who ultimately determined that his conviction should be vacated because he had entered into an immunity agreement. So
I'm telling you now, Keffe D got a good argument. I love the argument. Don't agree with what he did. Gunshots, gunshots, gunshots. But he has a good argument that I think the appeals court will overturn because just the lower court, they all go play golf together and play those little games, so they don't really give a crap about us, and that's the way they treat us. But I'm letting you know what it is. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Go subscribe at Juanita, Mecca Audio, Unique Mecca Audio, Prison Stories, and Mecca Audio TV. Alright.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime. Fresh out the can of 26, yeah. He back on the strip, getting back in the mix. Yeah. What he mentions a gift. Right. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Real. Take a little gully posse and put it in hall. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. An Instagram page and a YouTube, you could go and visit. Yeah. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Real. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block. Did his time, never squilling to the cops. Mecca Audio. Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was whining. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spend a couple bands on the dapper Dan. You eat that again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. Baby horn uptown, Dominican bust down. Now we on the positive, we got a lot to give. Now you trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend an ear. He started in uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community yard, so we can get back to the cheers, cheers, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.